All right, well, good morning, everyone, and I just want to thank the event organizers and Hampshire College for letting me talk today. It's really exciting. Okay. I'm here to talk about the Transition Hampshire initiative. It's a little different from some of the projects we've just heard about today, but it all has the same goal in mind. And I'm just going to start with some key background information just to tell you how this got started and why it will become crucial to our community. So, I'm about to make a pretty large claim. Human dependence on finite resources is dangerous. The danger manifests in systemic exploitation, socioeconomic inequality, and continued corruption in our systems of power, knowledge, economy, and culture. It's apparent from the global level right down to the local, right here in our Hampshire community. We feel the sharp pain of tuition spikes and budget cuts, the tense anger and submission to rising food prices. And have you ever wondered how much reusable material could be recycled that just isn't? We could have food for organic gardens, new media for artists, and potentially energy from waste products, as we talked about earlier today. Over and over again, conversations between students, staff, and faculty become frantic outbursts of frustration over school practices that don't line up with what some of us see for Hampshire. I asked a few of my friends the other day to name some key grievances, and the list was extensive, and it's similar to other initiatives that were talked about today. There was bottled water, disposable dinnerware, outsourcing of dining and student store services, large areas of mowed grass, lack of effective recycling systems, and these were just a few. So, with so many discrepancies, with a problem so much bigger than us, how can we not succumb to frustration? How can we not become apathetic? How can we unite the various factions of a campus towards a common goal? And I guess the real question of what I'm getting at is, what can we as individuals do to change? Around the world, small communities are coming together to create small but powerful, lasting action that both raises awareness of pressing global issues and positively impacts their communities. Examples range from community-owned renewable energy plants in Lewes, East Sussex, United Kingdom, to neighborhood skill shares in Melbourne, Australia. And this is all part of the Transition Town movement. Initiatives of this movement are popping up in Brazil, South Africa, and Bangladesh. There are several initiatives also in the Pioneer Valley, at least 10 I can name off the top of my head. Members of transition towns work locally to counteract systemic global failures, effectively returning control of the future back to where it belongs, in the hands of community members. This is where all of what I'm saying kind of comes together now. The Transition Hampshire Initiative is an expanding group of students, staff, and faculty actively working towards a just community in social, economic, and environmental terms. We want a happy, healthy, inclusive, and just environment in which to live, work, and play. To achieve such monumental ends, this action-based initiative works from the bottom up. We encourage collaborations between disciplines, identities, and ideologies. We open pathways for the production of a better future. And we celebrate the history and infinite possibility of our quirky, unique, and loved community. This will be done through roughly a three-part process. 1, we identify problems in multiple contexts and systems that manifest on our campus. 2, we create a shared vision of a positive alternate future. And 3, we create action that works in accordance to the shared positive vision. I realize that this all sounds really, really abstract and theoretical and probably not at all realistic, but trust me, this really has potential to do some great things. Even with the short amount of time this idea has been floating around on campus, it really just started in January. We've done some pretty amazing things. Our biggest victory by far has been the creation of a Transition Hampshire mod. And for those of you who don't go to Hampshire, we really like to do things differently, and our on-campus apartment-type living situations are called mods. And this will start, the Transition Hampshire mod will start in fall 2012. At one of the transition meetings, we were talking about the disproportionate amount of unsustainable housing on campus. I'm also part of the environmental committee, and there's a lot of talk about the creation of programs that would promote a sustainable lifestyle. And while I'm here, I just want to do a quick side note and define sustainability, because I think it's a concept that we all talk about, but no one really ever defines. So when I use the term, I think of sustainability as the ability for ecological and human communities to thrive in the present and adapt to the challenges of the future in social, economic, and environmental terms. It is not a one discipline, one ideology, or one identity issue. It concerns all of us. Anyways, the mod seemed like the perfect first project for transition. We didn't really know how to get a special mod. The housing lottery is really scary. If any of you have lotteries at your own campuses, very intimidating. But we wanted to do this, and we went for it. We drew up a proposal, a concept plan. We went to the director of housing and proposed this to her, and she went for it, and we got it approved. The Transition Hampshire mod is more than a new housing option. It will serve as a truly interactive example of what sustainable living can be on a college campus. Collaborations between different student groups will not only help us determine what needs to be done to make the mod sustainable, but rally the student body around a common goal. Classes will have a new opportunity for student projects, and through a series of different community engagement events, we aim to build a strong community around the mod itself. Specific projects for the mod include reducing energy and water use to respectable levels to be determined by the mod itself and with input from other individuals. We'll do this through installing and retrofitting the mod and putting in monitoring devices. We're going to source all of our food from local farms and co-ops and make the commitment to eat seasonably as possible, which, as you know, in New England that might be a little difficult, but it'll be interesting for sure. Let's see, where am I? Oh, and I think the most exciting part is we're going to partner up with different mods and offices and hallways to engage in discussions and dialogues around sustainability via the implementation of a hybrid of the EcoRep program that the UMass representatives talked about earlier. Hopefully this endeavor will inspire the other mods, hallways, and offices to sign a Transition Hampshire pledge and generate a list of more sustainable choices that can be made within that particular space. And if there are any Hampshire students here right now who want to do this, just talk to me after and I'll give you some more information. In addition to the Transition Hampshire mod project, we are starting a campaign to revitalize and celebrate underused programs and spaces on campus, like the Hampshire Forest Garden, which has fallen into a little bit of disrepair after a while. And just yesterday, we received word that next fall there will be a class taught by Colin Twitchell and Roxy Finn entitled Think Globally, Design Locally, that will work specifically with the Transition Initiative. In accordance with our reputation as a leader in progressive higher education, Hampshire has the potential to become a center not only for transition initiatives, of which there are at least 10 in the Valley, which I mentioned earlier, but we could really be a center for all grassroots initiatives working towards a just and sustainable future. There's the potential for conferences, community organizing workshops, and access to an incredible wealth of knowledge from a growing network of passionate, determined, and inspirational individuals. The Transition Hampshire initiative is in its infancy, but already we're making positive change. We truly believe that we can change behavior towards a more sustainable lifestyle from the bottom up. We can push back against the global systemic problems that manifest in our communities, and we can do it while working together towards a happy, healthy, and just future. And I encourage you all to talk about it to me later, and I encourage you all to join us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jen. I'm a sophomore at Lasell. I'm actually a student intern for sustainability, and I'll be presenting on behalf of another student who actually created these logos. So it's basically using students to design logos and slogans because we think that we want to target behavior change. We think that's going to be huge for, starting initiatives. And I'm asking Mark to talk a little bit about background about the school because I'm brand new. So.
Thanks, Jen. Well, for me, it's great to be home. I spent 28 years here at UMass Amherst and worked on sustainability initiatives before anybody was talking about sustainability. We built a really good recycling program there. I worked with 5 colleges. I actually came to Hampshire to build their grassroots recycling program. So for me, it was great to come back here. The first thing we did on the way was to take Jen to Henyon Bakery to get the finest baked goods probably in the country. And if you know anything about Henyon Bakery, the guy's been there for years, and he's also an amazing potter. My whole kitchen's full of his pottery. So anyway, it's great to come back. When I was at UMass, we worked with students all the time. We built what is probably still one of the largest and best recycling facilities, transfer facilities on a college campus in the country. And we staffed it with students and staff. And many of the students that work there as interns now are in the industry, working in the field. So we're real proud of that. I still have constant connections with those folks. So working with students is really something I've loved to do since I was in college. I also teach in the UMass Boston MBA program at night. I teach sustainable operations management to students to teach them actually how hard or easy it is to put this on the ground. It's easy to sign the ACU PCC, right? It's way harder to do it. So that's what we actually talk about in the class as one of our focuses there. What I'd like to do this morning is just give you a little background about Lasell. Lasell's a small college, okay? 1,600 students. It's located west of Boston by about 12 miles. We're about 40 acres. The thing that's interesting about us is we're 55 buildings, okay? 31 of those are Victorian homes. What do you think about the energy footprint of those buildings? We got some serious challenges, and we're working on balancing the historical charm of those buildings with the energy efficiency and the greenness of those buildings. So we feel that we have 55 teaching and learning labs, and that's what we're working on now to use that. We're nestled also in the middle of a historic neighborhood. What does that mean? You can't just go do what you want with the buildings. It's got to get permitted, right? And we're well known for our fashion design program. That's really good, right? The thing that's really hard for us is we have no hard science and no hard engineering programs. So like at UMass, when we brought electric cars there, hey, we had the engineering students putting meters on them, we were changing out battery packs, we have no hard science. We have to figure out a different way to engage students. And so one of the things we've done is last fall, we got the college and we actually seeded it with students and faculty and staff to include in the strategic plan for the school a 10-10-10 goal, which is basically to reduce our gas, electricity, and water consumption, net consumption, each by 10% by fiscal year 2017. That was never in any of our forward thinking. Sustainability wasn't mentioned in any strategic plan before this. So we literally seeded this meeting with students, and actually the top vote for the students for that meeting was this goal, the 10-10-10 goal. So we're really happy about that. The other thing we've done, which Jen knows about, and Jen, incidentally, has only been at the school for like, in this program for about 2.5 months. So she's brand new, and she's doing wonderful work with some other students on the Climate Action Plan and a new website and some other really cool initiatives. But one of the things we've done is we've started the Center for Sustainable Society. Our vision was to create a building where faculty, staff, students, and the community come together to build a sustainable campus and world. And that gives us space now to actually bring those programs together and to start to do some really wonderful things. A couple of really quick insights on what we've done in the past. We were going to build a new classroom building, a new fashion design classroom building. They said to me, well, we're going to tear the barn down, and I said, no, we're not. Okay, we're going to deconstruct the building. So I have connections with Center for Ecological Technology here. We've been friends for about 30 years. We brought their team in, and we deconstructed the building by hand. We recycled 83% of the building, not including the foundation, and 45 tons of valuable natural resources, including things like vinyl siding and asphalt shingles, which went actually to New Hampshire to make road base for highways. We also run a move-out program at Lasell. We do not have room. Some of you were talking about trying to store it till fall. We don't have the room to store it till fall either. We send it out to nonprofits. If I know somebody was saying they had trouble with finding nonprofits. You have any trouble? Call us, okay? See us after. We have more nonprofits than we can service, and we can connect you with them. So these are the kinds of things. 2 years ago, 1,400 pounds of clothing, 700 pounds of food, 250 pounds of art and office supplies, and small appliances, and all kinds of other material that got saved that would have been in the trash. And then one of our other initiatives is this great program where we have eco-reps and sustainability interns and the Lasell Environmental Action Force. Whatever you call them, they're students that are heavily invested in really working with us on campus to promote sustainability. A little sidebar that's directly related to that. So I wear at least 3 hats, okay? I'm the Director of Plant Operations. I'm also the Sustainability Person. And I also chair the Environmental Sustainability Committee on campus. So I wear 3 hats, and if we didn't have students to work on these initiatives, they wouldn't happen, okay? So they're really our foundation. And so Jen's gonna talk about one of the student programs that we've been working on that we're really excited about, because we need to change people's behavior. That's one of our major problems, right? I was actually, and we were talking a little bit about, and you and I are actually old enough to remember this, because I was a UMass grad, and I graduated from UMass in '75, the same time you were graduating, right? And when I was here in the '70s, there was a program called Ready Kilowatt. You remember Ready Kilowatt? Anybody remember Ready Kilowatt? You're old enough too, okay? So,
not quite,
yeah, we're not quite. You're younger, but almost. Maybe your parents told you, right? So, in those days, Ready Kilowatt was a program from the utility company that put stickers on light switches and basically tell you shut off the lights, right? Save the environment, shut off the lights, save money. And when I went into the Hampshire men's room today, there's, sure enough, on the light switch is a sticker. You're going to see something that's related to that in this program. And this is what's kind of been driving us. So, take it away, Jen. Thanks.
So these are directly related to our 10-10-10 goals. And basically, we're trying to promote more awareness to change behaviors. So the girl, Sarah, she's a senior. This was for a project. She created a bunch of posters to kind of promote reducing pollution, recycling, reducing paper use. So here's recycling. We have another logo that she actually created, the Sustainability at Lasell, which kind of ties in everything so people can see or be exposed to the logo more often. And you have the power to save our planet. We kind of put that in there so people know why they're doing it. So conserving water. And we also came up with this idea for stickers, which Mark was just talking about. I think it's a great idea, just to remind people. It's obvious when it's on a light switch, but also on computer monitors and copiers, printers. And hopefully this will start getting people to realize that they need to turn stuff like this off in order to help us reach our goal of reducing our emissions by 80% by 2050. And just, I guess, a little bit about what I've actually been doing. I've been working with this other student. She's an intern. We just started working on climate action planning. So I'm in the process of learning. I think it's a great way to create awareness, because one of the issues, I think, is that kids aren't really educated on why this should be important. And I think that the Center for Sustainability is a great place to get people together. So people in the faculty and staff can also be involved. That's it.
I can't be more delighted than to have BuildingGreen here today. I just want to say something about them. I always assumed they were a nonprofit. They're not. They're actually a for-profit corporation, but they're different from other for-profit corporations. They give away these amazingly valuable products, either for free or for very little. And what we're going to hear about today is this amazing tool that colleges can use to learn about green building, which is being given away, I don't know, not at cost, but not at a gouging price, not at a profit maximization theory. It's at a different theory, and really they are an example of what you might call a public benefit corporation that exists and does get profit, but not an excessive amount, enough to have a reasonable return and keep on doing business, but are mostly concerned about their mission. We don't yet have a society that provides a track for that, but a lot of people are working on this issue of what do you do if you're not a nonprofit and you're not a profit maximizing, profit gouging corporation. You're something in between, and I'm particularly proud to have us hear from one of those today.
What a wonderful introduction. I actually wanted to I thought the best way to sort of share a little bit about what we offer and who we are was to tell you a little bit about where we came from. So that was a great way to kick that off. And in fact, when the company was started by my colleague Alex Wilson, he really did have that model in mind of wanting to create a model company that could show that it's possible to do well by doing good, all those phrases. And it was a decision whether to work as a nonprofit or a for-profit. And that was a major reason that we chose to go the for-profit route, was to try to be one of those models. So we're working on that, on both fronts, both the doing well and the doing good part. But the story I wanted to tell is that it was about 20 years ago when Alex and I were the company at the time, and we were slaving away writing builder training manuals for energy efficient construction programs. Anyone here remember Energy Crafted Homes? NISTAR, those things? Yeah. So we were writing the training manuals for those, and we were writing freelance articles for magazines, architecture magazines and stuff. And then we started to notice that there was certain things going on. There was a lot of demand for energy efficient. People were paying us to write about energy efficient construction, but there were other issues, there were other things going on. And there really wasn't a consistent venue for that. In particular at the time, the hole in the ozone layer was a big deal. The Montreal Protocol had just been signed. There was a big campaign to do stuff about that. And building materials and equipment were a huge part of the problem, but there was no, we could write an occasional article about that, but no regular venue for that kind of conversation. And so we started this little newsletter called Environmental Building News, which really was the first publication dedicated to the green building field. And we poked around and we found little pockets of people who were interested in this thing called green building. Most people hadn't heard of it. And we started to connect with the community doing that kind of thing. And one of the things that I recall most from those early years was how fun it was, because everything we wanted to write about, we kind of had to research from scratch. There were very few, and we were using secondary sources. We weren't doing original lab research, but there weren't other magazines, other publications to go to. We were calling up the experts. We were talking to people who were doing these things and putting together these reports and the newsletter. And it was really like getting to write term papers. I felt like I was back in school doing those articles. The web, of course, didn't exist back then. So when we needed to access a library, often we were down to UMass, driving down from Brattleboro, where we live, to use the library there and access some of the technical references. And over the years, we grew the company and expanded as the green building movement has really taken off. First with a green products directory, and with a database of green building case studies. And eventually, we tied it all together with this resource we call BuildingGreen Suite, which is a kind of a comprehensive tool that pulls together the articles, the concepts with products, with case studies, into more of an integrated resource. And we have that online and available by subscription. Along the way, though, we learned a couple interesting things. One of the early lessons was when we first started the newsletter, we thought that builders, home builders and contractors would be a primary audience for us. Well, there were two problems with that. First, a lot of the issues that we addressed in green building really had to be addressed during design. By the time you get into constructing the project, it's too late to orient the building properly, to figure out the daylighting, all these other things. So, so we kind of were missing something there. The other thing we learned, and this is more on the business side, is that builders, they were used to finding out anything they needed to know they could find out at the lumber yard. They weren't used to paying for information. Architects, on the other hand, were well trained to pay for good information. So we found a more receptive audience there. So we started to reorient, and over the years we've adapted to those kind of changes and reoriented around where there was a better fit for what we were trying to do. And then one of the other things that started to happen, especially once we put more and more stuff online, was we started getting calls from colleges and universities. And they were saying, hey, can we use your stuff in our class? Can you get us this stuff? Can we have permission to copy all this stuff? How do we? So we did our best to accommodate them, as they started to come in on the ones and twos. But we didn't really think a whole lot of it until it started happening more and more and more. And finally we realized there really is a fit here between what we're trying to do and college and university programs. And so we started more actively organizing and packaging our material to serve that fit. And we also started exploring, what is that? What is that fit about? Why are we getting so much interest from the academic market? And so part of it is just that over the years, we've covered pretty much all the main concepts and principles you need to know to understand green building and green building practices. So there's a pretty comprehensive resource there. It's all available on the site. It's a great tool for students to work with. It's also up to date because we're updating all this stuff on a weekly and even daily basis with new products, new content. Another reason we found in talking to people is that we're still writing primarily for a professional audience. And a lot of people in school programs really like that because they like the fact that the students are being acquainted with and trained to understand the language, understand the concepts as they're dealt with in the professional field, and therefore being perhaps better prepared to go out into the field and use those, and maybe even go into a place where the same resources, BuildingGreen Suite's also being used professionally, and so they've got that familiarity and training. It also helps that we don't carry ads on the website. So there's no question about whether what we're saying is tainted by somebody's commercial interests. And the pages aren't cluttered with a lot of flashy, dancy ads. Can distract you from the text. There's actually been some studies showing that you don't retain information as well from a page that's busy with a lot of other stuff. You learn much better from a simple design page, and so our pages have always been that way. But the last thing, I think perhaps most importantly, is that we've always shied away from pretending there are easy answers to difficult questions. So when we attack a topic in one of our resources, we really do provide a lot of context. We put it in perspective. We provide the information that an intelligent person would need to know to really understand the issues and come to their own conclusions about it. And so one of the ways a good friend of mine said, the reason I always love your stuff is you tell me the right questions to ask. And isn't that ultimately often the most useful thing? Is what are the right questions to ask? Because easy answers often are hard to come by. So in the campus setting, it's been interesting to see how, like a lot of sustainability coordinators, we sort of fall in between and help connect the educational, pedagogical functions with the facilities teams, because we're really applicable in different ways to both. And so we provide a resource in both of those settings. I'm just going to share a couple of pictures here, and then talk about a couple of the newest things we're doing as well. There's the newsletter. Most recent issue just went out the other day on daylighting. A lot here about the ways people actually do daylighting wrong. Some interesting examples there. I mentioned the products directory. This is a copy of the print version, but it's mostly online now. This is the home page for campus accounts, people who have access to it across the campus, what we call a campus-wide account or an enterprise license for a campus that gives you an in to all the great resources on the site. These are the campuses that actually are subscribers on an enterprise basis. So these are the schools that have a license to use the website across the campus network. And then a couple of newest things we're doing, Rick, I'm sure you're well familiar with this, is through a partnership with the Healthy Building Network, which is a nonprofit. We are now the sales channel for their Pharos tool, which is a phenomenal research tool. It provides really amazing detail on the ingredients of building materials and the environmental and health hazards associated with all of those ingredients. There's a database behind this tool called the Chemical and Materials Library, which you can go into. You can plug in chemicals by name or by CAS number and find out where that chemical stands on a whole series of different authoritative hazard lists. So it's really a unique database of research for anyone working on green chemistry or just understanding what's in our products and the things we're trying to use and what the hazards are with that. And so that's kind of the deeper research tool. And at the other extreme, kind of much more for people practicing in the field, a lot of people, we heard this morning, are doing LEED projects. And so we have a website dedicated to helping people do LEED projects. It's called Lead User. And really active user forums where people are helping each other out, some great resources and tools that can help with the achievement. So this is more kind of for the facilities side or for students that are working on more implementation courses. And that's what a typical screen on the Lead User site looks like, the kind of content you can see available there. So BuildingGreen Suite is this core tool that we've made available to campuses for a long time. The two Pharos and Lead User are newer tools that are just starting to show up and get some interest from campuses, but much more actively in the professional field as well. And really appreciate you inviting me to share a little bit about these tools with you. Thank you very much.
I also want to ask Brett if you have anything you want to say about Green Review. Sorry to put you on the spot, but
nothing prepared. No,
nothing prepared. That's right. I'm putting him totally on the spot. But why don't you just tell us what the organization does?
So Greener U is another for-profit that you might think is a nonprofit organization that's working with different colleges and universities in the New England area to help them achieve their various sustainability goals. We've actually just worked with Hampshire themselves to write their climate action plan. And feel free to speak with me if you'd like any more information.
Thank you. We have just a couple of minutes. I'd like to first invite any sustainability coordinators who are here to make any comments that they'd like to make after having heard all the presentations. Don't feel any pressure to do so, but if you'd like to, I'd like to give you that opportunity. Okay, I'm going to say something. This exceeded my expectations. I did not know what kind of quality would occur through making this solicitation. I played absolutely no role in ensuring that there would be high quality. This was what Nyrika says is spontaneous initiative. And we have demonstrated that spontaneous initiative, all you have to do is ask and create the space. And you all came and filled the space. And I think that the value, I've been doing environmental conferences from Office of Technical Assistance on this topic for more than 20 years. And this was as high quality information as you would have seen at any environmental conference, including what you see from high-tech companies. So it was really amazing, and I invite you all to applaud yourself.